Welcome back, friends, artists, subscribers, and new viewers alike. Today, we're going to be going into part 2 of how to draw like Marc Silvestri's Batman and Joker, the Deadly Duo. Today, we're going to be talking specifically about faces, how he differentiates them between the lighting and the rendering, between character to character, between human to scary monster dude. However, if you haven't watched the first video of this series, I would highly recommend that you do, mainly because I'm going to be referencing things, and the first video explains the core concepts, so if you don't understand that, this one might not make as much sense. So, with that said, grab your sketchbook and let's go. Values over realism. Now this is going to probably come across a little bit weird, but it's super duper important to Marc's work. Marc values the storytelling and the composition over realism. And I know what you're thinking, his faces look very realistic, but we're talking about lighting. So, let me show you what I mean. In this first example I have here, we can see Detective Bullock is lit fairly well. He has shadows and a Terminator patch on the right, and behind him is near enough pure black. But the very next panel, he's now stood in a very harsh spotlight, a complete and opposite change of lighting, flipping the values 180. So this is what I mean. Would this happen in a logical and realistic world? Probably not. But it's a big part of the Marc magic that he uses to make things just look really cool. This next example, we can see Bats and Bullock again, with relatively simple lighting. However, in the third panel in this sequence, Bullock is now lit completely differently despite no movement or scene change. You may notice that the hands in the foreground are lit completely normally and have very average values. This works because of that value separation. We have one area that is completely different to another, and it helps us understand what is important and what is not, what Marc wants us to look at. Marc is saying to us, I want you to look at this, and then I want you to look at that, because there's two very stark different values. Faces. When it comes to drawing faces in this particular Silvestri style, it goes without saying that I hope you're really comfortable drawing realistic faces, especially when compared to his previous comic books and his previous art styles. This is the most realistic he's come. I'm personally not going to cover how to draw realism because, well, it's not my strength. I don't know too much about it, but we are going to go over how he renders these faces so that if you want to draw realism or you want to apply this to your own stylized characters, I think it would work either way. First step is you must understand the planes of the face. If you need extra practice, I would recommend using either the Loomis lighting tool that I mentioned in my 9 free comic art tools video, or the new to me, facial planes of the face tool as a handy reference. Links are of course down below. Now that we have an understanding of what and where the planes of the face are, let's have a look at these examples I have down here, because it'll all tie in together. Can you see how Marc uses the changes in directional crosshatching in line with the different planes of the face? If I bring up the Face Plane tool by Alexander's K again, we can point out where some of these changes are. Here on Bullock's face, here on Batman's face, and here on this random guy's face. This is the core idea of rendering faces Marc Silvestri style. And he supplements it with adding long strokes around the whole width of the face, just to add some extra definition. Just a quick one while I have you. If while watching these videos you're inspired to draw along or learn along, feel free to send those artworks to me on Instagram. I'd love to hear about it, what you've learned, what you've improved upon, what you want to learn more of. Core, one of my YouTube members, sent me this that he drew after watching my previous Marc Silvestri video, and I just thought it was awesome. I created this video that explained the techniques. He went away, drew it and then shared it with me. So if you're out there drawing and you're learning things, let me know, because I'd love to have like a little highlight section every video, every other video, depends how many DMs I get, where I just showcase what you guys have been learning, because that's the ultimate goal, is to teach people more about comic art and how awesome it is. So back to the video, let's go. Females. When it comes to drawing females, it's the same concept, using directional lines and the planes of the face, but in true comic book art style, it's a lot less intense, unless your name is Harley. With these 3 images, we can see 2 of Harley and 1 of Catwoman, who looks strikingly similar to Audrey Hepburn. And overall, we can see a whole lot less rendering. I think this could be down to 2 things. Number 1, females typically have softer curves and planes of the face compared to males. And the second part is, I think he does this because of Harley's personality. She's a little bit twisted, so he adds rendering as almost like a subconscious way to influence how we think about her and her personality. Monsters. When it comes to rendering and adding details to monsters' faces, it sort of took a turn that I really wasn't expecting, so let's get down to it. The first thing I noticed was the sheer amount of detail and how much tighter the rendering was in general. I think this is because he wants to accentuate the little pockets of detail, gristle, and wrinkles. The second part ties into what we've talked about before, where he values storytelling and composition over realism, whereby he chooses to make things that would ordinarily be in shadow into light for coolness purposes. With the first 2 images in particular, we can see that both characters have a pretty dense shadowing on their forehead and a relatively clear Terminator line. However, certain characteristics are popping out through the character in bright white values, such as strands of hair, wrinkles, and crinkles around the nose and eyes, and most importantly, their teeth. Have you noticed that the teeth are pure white? That's because he wants them to stand out. He wants you to look at them and be disgusted by how massive and gnarly they are. That's why he didn't add any rendering. He wants them to be very clear to you, the viewer. Joker. Now, you might have assumed at this point we have a general idea of faces and monsters, and if you put the 2 together, you might have the Joker. And you'd be right, we have a general idea, but Marc being Marc, he goes that extra mile and adds that extra detail that took a bit of digging. So, let's go. Let's look at these close-up shots of the Joker, for example. We can see what we've learned so far. He's following the planes of the face. He has some swooping strokes that go around the face. But look at how much line direction changes there are, especially compared to quote-unquote normal characters. I think he does this because he's emphasizing the Joker's mindset. He is more than a bit scrambled mentally, so he's showing that, even on his skin and on the planes of the face, that it is showing through too. Now, before you go away and draw a wildly rendered, multi-directional Joker face and all of your single panels, wait, because he changes it up. If a panel is smaller, or if the background behind the Joker is busy, Marc will opt for less rendering overall, because he is again prioritizing the overall composition, storytelling, and how those values work inside each and every panel. If the Joker was madly rendered, it would sort of get lost and not have as much contrast. So that's why these panels work. We're at the end of the video, or videos if this turned into a 2-parter, and if you got to this point, thank you so much for watching the whole video. I do truly appreciate it. And if you did get to the end, I'd love to know any feedback that you have about these videos. Anything that you think I could improve, add on, take away, whatever it is. I'd love to know because I just want to get better videos for you guys. As always, I want to shout out my YouTube members, Shepherd and Core, who decided to help me every month with a small donation. So shout out is for you guys. If you enjoyed this series so far, I have other series on Jim Lee and Joe Mad. And if you have any suggestions of artists that you'd like to see, let me know in the comments below. Until next time, keep on sketching.